Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to another review for Sisters. We're on season 9, episode 6, entitled New Normal. And that is unfortunately where we are trying to navigate these new normals, trying to figure out, the next steps that people are going to be taking. So let's just jump into the review. So we see Maurice, and he's proud of Sabrina because Sabrina has told Penelope and Rich that they can go ahead and be together or do what they need to do, but she's done with it. She's finally finding her voice and she's putting her good foot down. She tells Maurice that it's time for her to do her own thing, go out there and sow her royal oats, so to speak. And Maurice is just so proud of her. Like, okay, girl, go do what you got to do. I'll be here to coach you. And so that's the journey that Sabrina's going to be on a lot of this episode. He suggests that she, as the old wives' tale goes, in order to get over one man, you got to get up under a new one. And so that is the goal that Sabrina's going to be on these next few episodes, I'm sure. All right, so Andy is calling around trying to get information on the degenerate Dr. Cruz and finds out that another black woman has perished under his care within the last 24 hours, the night prior. And that lady just happens to be somebody that she went to law school with. Turns out she was miscarrying, and the doctor refused a DNC or whatever the medical term is to help her along in the process. She bled out and met her demise. And of course, under the care of Dr. Cruz, as many other black and brown women have. So we see Andy, and we see she's on her phone. She's trying to get into the information, and she's distracted. However, one of her partners, I can't remember the name right now, he comes in, and he's like, "Are you sure you're okay?" Like, you seem a bit distracted. And she was like, "Well, honestly, I'm okay, but I am following up. I'm going to probably end up putting a legal action against one of the doctors." And she tells him about her investigation against Dr. Cruz, and he recognizes, he's like, "Cruz, what's his first name?" And she's like, "Brett." And the partner's like, "You mean my old golf buddy, Brett Cruz?" And so now we know we're going to have to deal with that whole other thing in conjunction with trying to get justice for Karen and her child. All right, so we see Aaron, and he's sitting there talking to Karen, and she's talking, she's kind of interacting, but not really. She seems a little spaced out, and he's like, you okay? She's like, "Yeah, sure, I'm about to get up and make some dinner." Mind you, it's morning time, because everybody's just getting to work, everybody's getting over the night before, and she's trying to cook dinner, but it's almost as if she doesn't know where she is, almost doesn't know who she is, whether she's coming or going. She's almost, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't diagnose her, but I don't know if it's postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, PTSD. Like, there is a lot that this lady is navigating, and it is affecting her mind, and now we have to overcome that, as well as grief, as well as whatever else that she's going to have to overcome in the near future. So that's going to be happening a lot as well. Well, not a lot, but this is what we're going to be navigating in the coming episodes as well. All right, so we jump back over to Andy, and she's talking to the partner, Mr. Garrett, I think, whatever his name. He's just going to be a partner for now. And he tells Andy, like, "Oh, no, girl, I've known, Brett Cruz for years. You may have been misspoken. Something might not be right, but what are your claims?" And he claims that, just so you know, I've never heard anything bad about Cruz. In the years that we've been golf buddies, I've never experienced him that way. Okay? And so Bradley is making attempts that basically like downplaying Dr. Cruz's actions, even though there's evidence that Ed has been able to come across. And now he questions, like, "Are you sure about your facts?" Like, instead of, sympathizing, he sympathizes, but it's immediately followed by, "But Cruz would never do that" type of sentiment. And she tells him, like, "I know that's your friend and all, but he's a raging racist. I don't know what to tell you about that." And he's like, "Listen, I think you're too," she tells him, like, "Listen, there's countless cases that I'm coming across and people and complaints against him. It's not everybody." And he thinks like, "Oh, you're too emotionally tied to this and you're too emotionally invested, because I keep hearing you saying my friend, my friend, my friend. And maybe you got too much of your emotions tied up. But is Brett not your friend and you have an emotional tie to Brett as well?" Okay, then. All right. So he tells her, like, "Listen, I need more concrete evidence, not just a few complaining patients." And this scene really, 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 really pissed me off, because that's what the people do, right? Instead of empathizing and sympathizing with people, their immediate reaction is to find doubts or cast judgment or downplay it, whatever the issue is, as opposed to taking the facts for the facts and dealing with the facts. Now, I understand that everybody has a personal relationship with each person that's involved in this thing. However, you keep, Bradley keeps saying, oh, well, he's my friend and I don't know him to be like that. Yes, because you're not under his care. You're not going to experience medical neglect and all these other things because it's not your wife. If you have a black wife and she ends up pregnant and she needs to have a child, maybe you get a first-hand experience. So, of course, your experience with Cruz is not, you're not going to see his professional life because you know him personally. So, of course, you're not going to see that. But again, he's casting doubt, and of course, he's going to try to impede Andy when she's trying to pursue this case against him. Unfortunate, but of course, this is now what we're going to have to deal with because white men, right? All right, so we see Hayden, and we know that last episode, Fatima was able to land like a big basketball player contract. Of course, she's not a full-on lawyer, but she's taking the lead on this thing, you know, maybe to lighten Andy's burden or whatever it is that's happening. Actually, Miss Willis kind of asked her personally too to Hayden to make sure her godson is taken care of. Anyway, we see Hayden. He's trying to slide in on the basketball player with, I can't remember his name, with Fatima, and she wasn't having it at first. But while they're sitting there talking, you know, we hear that there's another basketball player that's out there. Wanting to talk to her, which means he's already started referring her out to his friends, and now her load is about to pick up, and she may be reconsidering, like, hey, I might need the help anyway because Andy's got her hands full and I'm just a intern, so to speak. So he's basically almost begging to help her out with the players, and she reluctantly agrees, like, okay, don't screw this up for me or you're gonna come up missing. I'm not playing with you. Like, get in here and sit down and act like you got some sense. So we'll see how that working relationship works out with them two. All right, so we see Zach. Zach meets this older gentleman, Mr. Keys, in the gym, and he sees like you're working out, but your mind is not here. You're distracted. Are you okay, my good brother? He's an older gentleman, and he's talking to Zach. Well, they're kind of talking in and out, and he tells Zach. They finally sit down and they have a conversation, and he tells Zach like, hey, I understand your situation. We're just to presume that Zach is giving him the full scope of what he's dealing with. He tells Zach, like, hey, I lost my son to cancer at 3 years old. And in my mind, that was the most unimaginable thing that could ever happen to me. And then it wasn't. Like, you know, I lost him early on, but it was just that I kept taking hit after hit after hit. And I got through it because I had to deal with, adapt, and overcome, and exhibit some patience and some prayer. And Zach knows, like, hey, I understand what you're saying, but I can't see past the clouds right now. I feel you, I get you, but it's hard to see tomorrow when today hurts so bad. Let's say that. And he tells Zach, like, I understand, but you just got to take it one day at a time. And he offers Zach his phone number. Like, this is the first time he's ever met this guy. Offers him his phone number. Like, you're not going through this alone. You're not going through this by yourself. Call me anytime. And it seems to be like the little bit of reprieve that Zach actually needs. And the clouds are kind of going away just a little bit. They're not gone, but there's a little bit of sunshine peeking through. And this scene was moving to me because, of course, Fatima has been trying to get through to him. Danny has had a conversation with him. I don't know what it is about the counsel that Mr. Keys was able to offer him that kind of stuck with him. And I appreciate Mr. Keys for making the sacrifice and seeing that this young man was struggling, even though he was out and about and at the gym and working out. He noticed that he was struggling and that he needed the help and he needed somebody to level with him and remind him that he was not alone. That is very important, especially when you're in the throes of going through what you're going through. So, I just a little thug tear, not too many. But that was good to see that somebody is offering to help. And he was like, okay, I appreciate you, but I got some business to handle. I guess his mind cleared up and he may be realizing, I'm making a presumption for next week, that, hey, I ain't the only one going through it. So I'm assuming he's going to go over to Karen's house because we see him in the final scene of the episode going over to Karen's house and to talk to her. So I'm assuming they're going to kind of commiserate a little bit on the loss of their daughter, their shared daughter. And maybe that'll be helpful. We'll see what happens next week. Either way, that's it. That has been episode 6. Not much to write home about. Some very good points to take away, but we know that Andy's going to face some pushback when it comes to Bradley and maybe the other partners as well because, birds and feathers and all that other shit. Yeah, and that's it. That's all I got for this week. Let me know what you think about the episode in the comments and we'll talk about it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever it is you feel like doing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.